So I want to talk about a story here out of Los Angeles. I have an article to show you guys here. This is in The Appeal. It's by Nilly Blanc. LA ended a zero bail COVID rule, and now the jail population is growing. In June, a judge ended an emergency order to slow the spread of COVID-19 in LA's jails, enraging civil rights advocates. On June 14th, as a new subvariant of the COVID-19 virus began to spread rapidly around the country, the Los Angeles County Superior Court announced a plan to rescind a zero bail policy designed to ease overcrowding in jails during the pandemic. First, guys, if you're unaware, the pandemic is still not only happening, but raging on. We're seeing thousands of deaths a day right now. And, you know, the fact that we have decided to collectively as a society pretend that the pandemic is over is beyond outrageous to me. Simply outrageous. You should very much still be taking COVID seriously, if not for yourself, for those who are immunocompromised or elderly or otherwise more vulnerable than you might be. I would also point out that a large portion of the U.S. populace is currently dealing with long COVID, according to recent studies, and long COVID could be very bad news. We don't even really know the extent to which it can be bad news because it is still so fresh. So I would really encourage my audience to continue to take deadly viruses seriously. Anyhow, we'll carry on with this article. The so-called emergency bail schedule policy, which was first inspired by a set of emergency rules enacted by the California Judicial Council in the spring of 2020, set bail to zero for a number of nonviolent misdemeanors in order to release the county's lowest level offenders and lessen jail crowding overall. But now, despite the fact that the spread of COVID-19 continues, the Los Angeles County Superior Court believes it's time to begin charging people to exit jail once more. Quote, the EBS was not conceived as a part of California's efforts at zero cash bail reform, the court said in a press release. They are completely different. $0 bail initiatives seek, as a matter of public policy, to permanently eliminate cash bail as part of bail reform. The court's EBS did not eliminate cash bail and was intended to be a temporary response to the pandemic-related dangers inherent in pretrial incarceration. Okay, we're going to continue, but I just want to briefly note what a pathetic response. What a pathetic response. First of all, it is just ridiculous to, again, pretend that the pandemic is over and that it is now safe to go back to overcrowded jails. There are also a whole plethora of other issues to do with overcrowded jails, obviously, but COVID's still very much one of them, and for this court to simply pretend that we are beyond that, I think, is ignoring the science and the facts and the reality. But secondly, to essentially say, yes, we know that it's the will of our state to zero out bail as part of its criminal justice reform, even though we know our constituents would like that, even though we know that this is in the process of potentially becoming reality in the coming years. This was a temporary measure, so we're just going to go back to that awful, harmful thing that we all know is unhealthy for society. We're just going to go back to that because it was never intended to be permanent. I mean, just seriously, what a pathetic answer from this court as to why it has decided to do this. Carrying on. The move has enraged civil rights activists who say the zero bail policy demonstrated that the county should cancel cash bail for good, even though many of those advocates believe that the EBS did not go nearly far enough to actually solve the problem of over-incarceration in Los Angeles or the mass spread of COVID-19 in jails. They readily admit it was a step in the right direction. Meredith Gallen, a Los Angeles County public defender and member of the Public Defenders Union, Local 148, told The Appeal that she wished the zero bail order had led to permanent, systemic change in the county jail system. Quote, this was an opportunity to set a precedent, she lamented. For people who are engaged in progressive reform and are concerned about cash bail, we viewed this as an opportunity to set a precedent that would last for longer and we could learn from. In theory, cash bail, which is returned to whoever pays the bail once litigation is complete, is not a punishment itself and is designed to guarantee that a person charged with a crime returns to court. In practice, however, even small bail amounts trap poor people in the jail system, while those with access to money often walk free no matter the severity of their crimes. In California, where the median bail amount is more than 5 times the national median, cash bail keeps thousands of indigent people in detention even though they have yet to be convicted of a crime. When the EBS was first enacted, LA County reduced its jail population by almost 30%, from 17,000 to around 12,000, its lowest number in decades. Since the policy was terminated on June 30th, when there were 13,232 people in the jail system, the number has increased. According to the county sheriff's website, the total jail population was 14,471 as of September 6th. According to the county's website, 144,592 people had tested positive for COVID-19 in the county jail system as of that same date. 23 people died from the disease. Nearly half of those held in LA's jails are pre-trial, meaning they are waiting behind bars because they cannot pay their bail. In a report published in 2017, Human Rights Watch calculated that every person in pre-trial detention costs taxpayers an average of $114 per day. I just want to note, since we're always talking MMT and how nefarious the use of taxpayer dollars and things like that are, this is talking about a local constituency. So the use of the term there is much less inaccurate and less disingenuous than it often is. It is costing the local public, if you will, the local public government, if you will, 114 per day per citizen. The same report described some of the severe consequences for people who have to wait behind bars for months or even years before their case is resolved. That list includes losing their housing, getting fired, having their children sent into foster care, and going into debt. While in confinement, people are also often unable to pay child support or take their medications regularly, and they are susceptible to violence by other incarcerated people and by guards. Those held in pretrial detention also miss out on the critical opportunity to properly prepare for trial. Studies have shown that people who are held in jail before their trials are more likely to be convicted than those who are not detained pre-trial. According to a Columbia Law School finding, there is, quote, significant evidence of a correlation between pretrial detention and both conviction and recidivism. All right, so wonderful, wonderful piece there in the appeal. And this is a horrific policy decision by this court, who falls back on the fact that it was a temporary policy to justify that horrific decision that goes against what Californians obviously want. And again, you guys, I just want to reiterate, if the intent of the policy to start with was to prevent overcrowding in jails during a deadly pandemic, then that policy should still be in place. We are not done with COVID. You cannot simply decide that something is over because you are tired of it. Believe me, guys, I wear a mask at work all day, every day. I don't want to do that. It's not comfortable. I leave work and my ears ache from the damn thing holding on to my head all day, right? It's not pleasant for anybody to have to deal with a fucking pandemic, but you cannot simply decide that something you don't like is over. Science does not give one shit what you think of it. It just doesn't. So we can either operate in reality or we cannot. And if we choose not to, that will cause incredible harm to the elderly population, to immunocompromised folks, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's not even getting into long COVID, which we are learning more and more about just how prominent and harmful long COVID is as well. So you can go ahead and pretend that COVID is over, but if you are doing so, you really are part of the problem. I encourage everybody to continue taking this pandemic seriously. I've used this analogy so many times on so many different things, you guys, but if you know a tsunami is coming, do you just say, well, I'm tired of the tsunamis. I'm going to sit here and build a sandcastle with my kid at the beach because I don't like that tsunami. I'm growing tired of that tsunami. Is that what you would do if it were that explicit and obvious and in your face? Is that the decision that you would make? Or would you respect reality and say, shit, I guess we got to leave the beach? Anyway, I encourage my audience to continue to take deadly viruses seriously, and I wish that the county of LA would do the same. And this is also, you guys, insofar as our criminal justice system is incredibly classist and racist, who is going to be most adversely affected by this horrific policy? Again, virtually everything in our society harms racial minorities and the poor and working class more than it harms anybody else. So outrageous decision by this court, outrageous decision by the county, and I hope that California will go forward with those initiatives to zero out cash bail entirely in the near future.